So now we want to give our users the option to choose the number of RAM modules they want in case, for example, they've got an older motherboard that only supports RAM in pairs. You might want 8 GB of RAM, but you might want two 4 GB modules. So we need to give people the option. And the easiest way to do that is just to create an entry. So before we create the entry, we want to basically put another little title in the first column so people know what it is they're doing, as we've done before. Now, we've already got a label called LBL RAM. So we basically want here a label with a different name that relates to, like, maybe the number, for example, of modules that they want. So we could call it LBL RAM number or NO, something like that. But we can't use LBL RAM again because we've already got one of those. So it's just a standard TK label, which we place on the window. Okay, we want some text here. And what we're just really doing here is just asking people, do you need any specific numbers of modules, any pairs, or is one just enough? Okay, so we want number of modules, and they can just type that in themselves. And then I'm just going to go for the kind of standard font and size that we've done for the rest of it so that we maintain that consistent look and feel. We put it on the grid as we've done with everything else so far. Just go number, okay, dot grid. Okie doke. And then this needs to go in the same column as all our other labels, which is 0. But we want this to be underneath our previous one. So it's going to be row 8 possibly. So you'll know what you've done on yours and you'll be able to work out. But I think I did 7 on my last one. I'm going to do 8 on this one. If it's not right, I can change it. Okay, so let's run that. Okay, it's a bit close to the one above, but to be fair, it is still to do with RAM, so that's fine. I'm just going to leave that there. Okay, and now we want what's called an entry. Now, we haven't done an entry yet, but the process of RAM entries, any kind of entry, they're all the same. It's just a little box you can type something straight into, and we've all used these 100 times before when we've filled in forms. Okay, so this is an entry, so we could just call it ENT underscore RAM. Okay, and it will be TK dot entry with a capital E. And Python knows that that's an entry box. Stick it on the window. Now, we're not typing any text into this box, but a little bit like with the drop down, we do need to tell it how wide we would like this entry to be. So we need enough characters for people to be able to say, I want 1 or 2 or 4 or however many they need. It's still going to be a single number, so you could probably get away with just 1 or 2 at this point. But if you want it to be as consistent as the other one, we might just go for 7 again. Okay, we don't need anything else on that one there. Do, however, need to put it on the grid. Okay, and we want this to be in column 1 because it's the center column. Okay, and we want it to be on the same row as our options label that we had a second ago, which on mine was row 8. But let's see what this now looks like. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to just add sticky just to make it all line up in the same place. Let's run it. Okay, so now I've got an entry box. I can just type something into. It doesn't do anything at the moment, but I can type something into it. It's not quite as wide because of this extra drop down bit here. But so if you wanted to add another character or two just to make it look the same length as this one, you can. Or if you want to leave it just like that, that's also fine. Or if you want to do sticky equals east west instead, then it would, move it a little bit more, so it puts it kind of all the way across the column like that. It's up to you. You could do all of these sticky east west if you wanted to, so they'd all be the same sort of width. But again, that's up to you. You can lay this out however you want. It's just aesthetics. It's just how it looks at this point. Right now we want a label, because whatever someone types in that box, we want to appear on the side. So we know what they've typed in that box, and then we can do something with that, basically. All right, so I'm going to call this something like entry response. Now it is just a label, so LBL, we could just call it response, or even entry. It doesn't matter. So as long as it's got LBL on the front of it, it knows it's not a command word, so it's usually okay. All right, and this is just the standard TK label that we've been using all along. Okay, we pop that on the window. Right, and then we just need to tell it which row and column we want it to be on the grid. Now, the text for this is just going to be 0 like all the others. And then we just pop that on the grid, as we've done with everything else so far. So this is going to be in the final column underneath all the other 0. So it's going to be column 2. And it's going to be on the same row as the entry. So that's going to be row 8. And I might, at this point, want to think about how the font's going to look. So what does it look like so far? Yeah, I didn't increase the font. So you can see it's quite small just there. So again, we'll just do what we've done in the past. We just copy and paste. And we paste that into here. Make sure we've got the 2 brackets. Run. Okay, that looks okay. So in theory, someone can say, oh, I want 2 modules. And when they press the enter key, it will change the number of modules, for example, just here. Right, okay, so now we need a label to configure the VAT. Now, there are more components, obviously, on a computer than this, but you don't necessarily need to include every single one on this form. It is a prototype. It just demonstrates that we can make selections and things do update and prices will calculate. So as a first kind of draft prototype to show someone, to say, hey, look, this looks fine, then that kind of works. Looking at this, I think maybe putting that 0 in that column could be a little bit confusing, because it is, at the end of the day, not a price. So I'm just going to move it into column 1, so that we can see that it's actually displaying the number of modules and not the actual price there. Okay.